Hey everyone, it's Miss Meacham here, and I just want to share a quick video with you guys about professional writing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at defining professional, technical, and business writing. We'll list out the four main higher order concerns for business documents and also compare academic and business writing. So for class today, you'll want to have the course pack, and if you haven't gotten that from Sir Speedy, you want to do that as soon as possible. But the readings are on Moodle, so if you go to Moodle, you will see a list from our class, that page from this week, and you can find the class readings online. But if you have the course pack with you, you can just grab that. And then just pen or pencil and just something to take some notes with today. So what we're gonna first do is we're gonna define our course. So I think it's helpful to kind of look at these main kind of circles here and look at, what do they have in common and what they maybe don't have in common. So go ahead and pause the video here and have, a minute and just kind of look at the business writing. So how would you define business writing? Who is an audience, or who's that for? What's the purpose? What's professional writing? How is that similar to business writing or different? And then finally, technical writing. Is there something that they all have in common? So take a minute here and create this kind of Venn diagram and kind of talk through, or work through, if that helps, with what those things are. Okay, so maybe under business writing, you might have said something like, let me see the annotate here. There's some different things that maybe you had thought about with business writing, maybe specifically for businesses or something like that. Professional writing, that might have been something like, for particular professions, maybe like lawyer or doctor, those kind of things. Business writing, professional writing, maybe something that they have in common is there's going to be some emphasis on particular documents, right? So for example, maybe a resume or something like that. And let me make that a little bigger there, make it a little easier. Technical writing, I think, technical writing is going to be something, for example, like instructions or things like that. Then just very specific examples of that kind of writing. So again, instructions, and it could be for, a piece of equipment or some chemicals or something like that. There are going to be things that maybe, they all have in common, right? So I think that, grammar is going to be important, thinking about who the audience is, some of those higher order concerns that we'll talk about. Things like that. So I think that this can be kind of a good start to kind of think about, okay, business writing might be specifically for businesses. Professional writing might be a kind of business writing, maybe for a specific subfield, or vice versa. They maybe both use resumes and those kinds of documents. Technical writing is going to really focus on very specific kinds of writing assignments, maybe instructions or things like that. But they all are going to have the higher order concerns in common. They're all going to care about grammar and things like that. So let's actually take a second now and go ahead and save that. Look at, sorry, let me, annotate. All right, so clear all this out, clear all the drawings, so that way we don't have to see it on the next slide. Sorry about that. So Moodle readings. So there's 2 handouts on Moodle. So what are the 4 higher order concerns? So go ahead and take a minute here and pause the video, and you can read like the readings. Just take a couple notes, skim them even, but just kind of look over them. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to look over that reading, or both the readings, I should say. So we'll talk about the higher order concerns on the next slide. But what do you think is the most important piece of information You know, for me, it's just going to be thinking about your audience, you know, and using rhetoric and using persuasion to look at what you want to get across to your audience. Like, what's the message that you want to get across? So let's take a look here. Some of the higher order concerns from the other reading. So it's going to be, you know, focus and purpose, right? So they kind of use those terms interchangeably. Your audience, right? Your organization and design, which I've split up into two actually, because I think they're both important. And then finally, your development. So actually looking at what kind of evidence you have to support. So take a second now and complete this particular chart and think about how is writing for school different than writing for work. So is the purpose for school different than work? If it is, you know, what are some of those differences? If it's not, you know, you can say that you don't think it is very different and kind of why that is. So just take a minute, pause the video, and fill out this chart here. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to write out some differences in terms of purpose, audience, organization, etc., between school and work. So let's take a look at maybe some things that you said. And keep in mind that maybe there are going to be some similarities. So for example, you know, you might have said for school is just kind of academic. You need to maybe persuade someone. But, you know, writing for work, we're trying to express or persuade someone to hire someone maybe, or to see your point of view. Your audience is going to be very different in school than in work, right? In work, it's got to be detailed. Writing, boss, coworkers, you know, or maybe people that you don't even know. It could be some external stakeholders that are going to read what you're writing. You know, it could just really depend. Organization. So I think the organization can be very clear in some ways in academic writing. So we have MLA formatting. We know how to cite sources. We had the meal plan, which we learned about in 111, which talked about having a main idea of a paragraph, having an example for that paragraph, giving some analysis, and then linking. So each part of the meal plan is a couple sentences, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3 sentences. So in business writing, as we've talked about, and as you're reading, it's really important to be very neat and short. It's very concise, those kinds of things. You know, again, the design is going to really need to appeal to that academic audience. They like a certain structure, whether that's MLA format or APA. The design of writing for work can really depend, whether it's a letter, a memo, a resume, a presentation, you know, all of those kind of really depend on the brand and that kind of thing. Finally is development. So looking at your outline, your research, looking at peer review, kind of, again, ways to not only structure the writing, but also give some evidence and things like that. So for example, research is important for both, but I think in your workplace writing, your prior knowledge is really important as well. And then finally, you know, what we want to do to wrap up is think about, you know, not necessarily a writing sample, although you can include that in your Flipgrid if you would like. But think about, or what are some qualities or characteristics of good technical writing? We talked about it at the beginning, or I guess I talked at it. I talked about it to you guys at the beginning of this particular presentation. You know, but think about what would maybe be a characteristic of good technical writing. Post to the Flipgrid. I amended the instructions on Flipgrid. It says list 3 here, but you can list just one if you want to talk about that. If you have a sample, feel free to use a sample, like a picture, or, you know, if you have like a resume with you, you know, feel free to bring in a sample and talk about some of those characteristics of good technical writing. You can think about the higher order concerns, or you can think just kind of more broadly what you think is important. So feel free to share, and also, you know, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or if anything's not working on Moodle, just definitely let me know. And we'll see you guys next week.